بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. These are, I just realized as Ramadan is going and I'll tell you like one of the things is that my daughter, she's 12. She wants to do i'tikaf, or she's trying to do i'tikaf. The Hanafi i'tikaf, you can do it at home, right? So she's, just in her room, um, has a space in her room and she's doing i'tikaf. What came up is that now if you have um uh if you're doing i'tikaf, what do you need in i'tikaf? What do you need to have if you're just like in a room, um you know what do you need to do? You can leave the itikaf for your needs, but what happens? Let's not think about my daughter. Let's think if it was your husband doing itikaf. What would you as a wife have to do if your husband's intention to have a designated space? Yes, that's for the women. But what does a person need in their itikaf? What do you need to have? Like you're just going to sleep and pray and just do ibadah all the time. Remember, you're fasting. It's a hint. What do you guys need? You need food. Who's going to get the food for you? Say if your husband was i'tikaf, who's going to get the food for him? I'm doing it for that because it becomes more clear for reasons, right? Obviously, you're going to get um the food for him, right? Obviously, me. So yes, you're going to get the food for him, and you're going to serve him. So you take care of his like itikaf. You're enabling him to do itikaf, right? So likewise, like, of course, since my daughter wants to do itikaf, then I have to bring the food to her room, I have to serve her and do all these things, right? So now there was a time where I was just like, I was just, yeah, you're in their service. You're in your husband's service. Now, for example, I'm in my service of my daughter to enable her to do itikaf. Now, there was a time when I was just, so I have my younger daughter as well, who is 4.5, almost 5, but she needs attention, and I wanted to spend some time doing ibadah as well. So I enlist my other kids to do that. So not just that, but for things like, for example, one time I was just tired and having backache. So I asked her to do something. Now, what does that, I want to go over what rule, what level, um, what is the ruling of i'tikaf? What is the ruling of i'tikaf? Put it in the chat. What's the ruling of i'tikaf? What level is it? Is it a farud? Is it wajib? Is it, what is it? Emphasize sunnah. Yes, it's a confirmed sunnah. Sunnah mu'akkada. Now, when I asked my daughter to do something for me, what ruling does that have? What is the ruling when I ask her to do something? Fuddled. It could be fuddled, right? But there's a nuance into it, right? Which I want you to understand because it's really important, because just the concept of, obeying your parents is, we would say it's fuddled, it is wajib, unless uh it is there's a conflict between interest, not just spiritual interest, even dunyawi interest sometimes. So it depends. It can fluctuate. Um, and of course, at times, right? So it's fluid, but at times it can even be can obeying your parents be haram? I'm picking your brains here. What do you say? Yes, yes, of course. How? How so? If it's against the Sharia, exactly. So there's not just one ruling for you know um, follow obeying parents, also obeying the husband, also obeying whatever it is. The rulings, they're fluid. There is, like, for example, there's a general rule, like it becomes obeying your parents because it's a wajib. If you if everything else is basically safe, right? If you're not hurting yourself, you're not going against the Sharia, etc. So, um, okay, so that's important to understand because just in terms of how we look at fiqh. And are you guys seeing my what I'm doing? My slides, my slide presentation. Can you guys see that? But anyway, I did want to show you guys the rulings here. It's basically from my just, oh no, you can't see it because my screen to share is paused. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to I just wanted to add some fiqh slides to my presentation so you can see, inshallah. Okay. So here I go over like what's fuddled and actually I want to do this hadith first. This is really important. So this is basically this hadith, it comprises not just about fuddled, but also about um just where we get spirituality from. Um our and this hadith, it is the hadith of, well, I'll just read it because it's beautiful. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah the Most High, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I declare war against him who shows hostility to a pious worshiper of mine. Pious worshiper is translated here, it's a wali. من عاد لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب. It's so it's so it's so beautiful, it's so sweet, but it's there's so much jalal in it. There's a lot of there's a lot of it's a threat, so there's a lot of jalal. But when you see behind that jalal, which is like rigor, which is toughness, behind that jalal, um, there's a jamal that is so beautiful because the jalal is shown because of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the servant. And the servant is the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here I will declare war. Sure, inshallah. I will declare war against, or I declare war. Man adali waliyan, whoever they've translated in a different way, but man adali waliyan, whoever shows enmity to a wali of mine, to a pious worshiper or wali, pious worshiper, not really a pious worshiper, but is a wali is someone who is a close friend. Well, if there's enmity, there's enmity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the enmity, right? Doesn't matter if it's come to the surface or not. It doesn't have to be, um, it's general here. So when my uh I declare من عاد لي وليا what and even in the Arabic when Allah subhanahu ما عاد لي وليا whoever shows enmity for a friend of mine someone who is a wali of me to a friend of mine فقد آذنته بالحرب I have declared war I declare war against him فقد آذنته I've declared war I declare war against him وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي ما افترضت إليه عليه and then and there and my servants my slave um does not come closer to me with a thing more beloved to me than what I have made obligatory upon him and he keeps coming closer to me he keeps coming closer to me لا يزال يتقرب إلي بالنوافل he keeps coming closer to me بالنوافل no, nafil is anything um, besides what is obligatory prayer or doing it's not prayer so nafil is called nafil can be sunnah nafil can be mustahab. So nafil is all those things. Anything other than the obligatory is nafil. So he keeps coming closer to me. Who the slave keeps coming closer to me until I love him. حتى أحبه. And when I love him, I become his hearing with which he hears, his seeing with which he sees, his hand with which he strikes, his leg with which he walks. And if he, when were he to ask me something, I would give it to him. And if he asks my protection, I will protect him. Okay, and this is a hadith. It shows it combines between fiqh and spirituality, and shows that how much spirituality is related to fiqh because you need to know what your fard is, right? You need to know what your priorities are. What is your fard? You need to know what your fard is because you're, and this is one of the reasons why, some of the scholars says one scholar is more tougher on shaitan than 1,000 worshippers because why? Because the scholar they know they can tell, and not necessarily a scholar, but somebody who knows this stuff, right? That person is alim. He has knowledge. He has knowledge of how to differentiate between what is priority, what he has to do, what will get him the biggest, quote unquote, bang for his buck, right? What will get him the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than what will basically if he's spending time doing the nafil, um, that will put him instead of fard, that will definitely put him back, right? Even though he thinks that's getting closer, but it doesn't. Which is this is a pitfall of the people who are righteous or striving to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their pitfalls is what? Is doing things that are less important and leaving things that are more important. Those are the pitfalls of the people who are trying. Of course, the people who are they don't even care. That's another category. But the women, as women, as we are trying and striving to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also um, you know, do what pleases him and looking to be of the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in this hadith as his awliya, as his those people who are of his close friends, right? When the level of the awliya is after, so you have the prophets, and then you have everybody other than prophet. Of course, nobody's going to get to the standard of prophet, right? Those are chosen, but we can strive to get to the level of awliya, those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And how we do that is through this is the elixir. This is the like the potion right here. This is what we need right here. Is first through your fard and then the obligatory. Now, I want to talk to you about fard. Now, just the way we had a nuance, which is very important. I'm glad I started with that, with the nuance about obeying our parents, that there it's nuanced. The fara'id can be nuanced, right? And a lot of things in fiqh are that way. They're not, oh, this is definitely a fard, and this is because what happens? So what is the thing that I mentioned that was exception? Okay, say when your parents ask you to do something, it becomes wajib. Why, when does it become like even haram? Why does that ruling change? What is the um what is like the tipping point? What makes it change? What makes the ruling change? What did you notice when we said, oh well, it can actually be haram sometimes too? What makes it change? Well, when does it become haram? When it goes against the Sharia? What else? Anybody? When there is harm, when there is harm, or when there is something that is more important. Okay. So anything, so now I'm going to go, I've put this up before. These are the maqasid of Sharia. These are the aspects of life, basically, that the Sharia seeks to protect, right? So the first is your deen, your life, your intellect, your property, your wealth, and your honor or your lineage. So these are the where the Sharia seeks to protect. Okay, all these are aspects of your life the Sharia seeks to protect. Now, um, so for example, let's going back to my in the example with my daughter and the itikaf. So if I asked her to do something, I need her to do something, and she doesn't it doesn't hurt her to do it, right? What does that become? What rule does that become? We already mentioned this. It becomes it's not a trick question here. The first one was a trick question, but here I'm making explicit it's not against the Sharia and it doesn't harm her to do it. And it's something that I need. As a parent, I need her to do it. It becomes wajib. So now she is she's doing her itikaf, which is sunnah, and she's being asked by her parent to do something which is wajib, right? So now what's more important? The answer is obvious, right? To fulfill her parents' need, and to fulfill the wajib. But so this is, here when it comes, of course, if you wanted to do something, um, and you're like, oh, first of all, it is more tricky for women to do the itikaf just because we are not in a masjid, and even getting the food and getting etc. You kind of you have to step out of your itikaf space, so that's more tricky. But if how do things become easier for when it comes to well-being, which I want to touch soon, when it comes to well-being and when it comes to like the fiqh and spirituality. Now, looking at it from her perspective, okay, there is something that you really wanted to do, and now you can't do it because of something else, right? That is going to, what are you going to, because somebody is demanding something of you, how are you going to feel? And this is where I'm getting at to a lot of us, as women, what we have to go through. What are you going to feel that, oh, you are not able to do something that you wanted to. Now you're in this. mindset because of somebody else. Where are all my sisters at? I don't see anybody in the chat. Any responses? Well, how do you feel about that? If you wanted to do something, but you couldn't. But you couldn't because someone else. I guess being in the masjid is different, right? You don't have to go out for um, getting food. So it may lead to resentment, correct? It may lead to resentment. But the way to counter that, so that comes into play. Where does maybe you'll still get the reward of the ibadah you want it to do? Yes, yes. Maybe you'll still get the reward. I love that. But what I'm trying to get at is that now how fiqh, spirituality, and well-being it can be compromised depending on what you focus on. What you focus on. And there's a saying that where you where your focus goes, energy flows. Okay? Meaning, so when you focus on something that you're like, oh, you couldn't do the sunnah. You couldn't do the sunnah. You couldn't do what you wanted to do. Well, this is because of something you had to do. But if you focus on that, if you focus on what you quote unquote lost, what you perceive to have lost, that may lead you to resentment, which resentment is it kind of it chips away at your well-being, right? So, but what is it a simple tweak that you need to do that you can turn your focus and to be appreciative in the moment? Is simply that when you notice the hierarchy here of the ahkam, of the rulings, if you simply notice that, okay, what I'm in is a sunnah, but to serve my parent is actually a wajib or fard, and that is actually more reward. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving me here the reward of the sunnah, which I intended, and also extra is that it's even a better reward of the wajib. It changes your perspective. Now, this I'm going to hit it more closer to home is that, of course, as women, when we have our period, when we're on our period and we can't do the ibadah that we wanted to do, a lot of women do complain about that, especially, oh, in the 10 nights I got my period and, it was like, oh, and everybody feels sad for her and, et cetera, et cetera. This is really, we gotta change that. I don't know if Chantel is back, but she's shout out to Chantel Blake for Honored Room that just in terms of our perspective of even our having our period, what we have to do, like what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do at that time is not pray, is not fast. And if we have that understanding that we are not praying and not fasting, but we are still doing a fard, right? Because what is the ruling for praying and fasting if you're on your period? What's the ruling for if you were on your period and you still prayed and still fasted? And in most of the madhabs, still read Quran and Quran, yes, yes, and Quran for, I know of a sister who continues and without knowing the ruling, continues to read Quran during the period because she misses Quran. What is the ruling? It's not allowed. It's not just not allowed, it's haram. What is haram? What is the ruling of haram? This is really important. It's something that is haram is prohibited, right? It's not just it's prohibited, that it is the most sinful and hated act. And here, repentance, Toba is needed. Um, and somebody who denies it becomes kafir, is the opposite of fard, etc., etc. Yes, of course, unless you're in the Maliki school, does allow it, right? Does allow reading Quran. But in terms of fasting and praying, no, it's prohibited according to everybody. Um, re Reciting Quran, dhikr in the Quran is okay. Like رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. That is dua from the Quran. That's okay. But otherwise, to recite Quran, if you're not following the Maliki opinion, this is haram, right? So there's another rule in the Sharia, rule given by the Prophet ﷺ. I didn't mention it here, but um, what it is that it's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, whatever I have given you, uh, sorry, just give me 1 minute. I don't know why my daughter is asking for me. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, sorry about that. So one of the one a hadith that's really important also to um kind of help us understand where these rulings, how to categorize these rulings is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, whatever I have asked you to do, whatever I commanded you to do, do it. Um, uh, or no, no, it's whatever I prohibited you to do, fajtanibu, avoid it, meaning avoid it at all costs. And whatever I've commanded you to do as much as you can. Okay, there's a difference. You see the difference in where he says about commanding and prohibiting. Right? What did he say? He said, whatever I prohibited you to do, avoid it like as much as it, don't even go near it. Fajtanibu, mean don't even go near it. Whereas what I've commanded you to do as much as you can. Meaning there may be things that you may not be able to do. What the scholars say is um, avoiding harm is more important than bringing about good. Avoiding harm, this is a rule. This is a qaida usuli. This is a usuli rule that says, where, let me put this somewhere. Avoiding harm is more important than doing good. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? قول معروف خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى. A goodly word is better than sadaqah, charity, that is followed up with harm. This is very, very important. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many times we as women we violate this. How many times as women we violate this in our persons, in ourselves, and just in the community. How many times have you seen someone who, like, they'll do something nice for you and then they're like, yeah, well, I did this for you, and I did this for you, and look what you did for me, or et cetera, et cetera. They talk about you, or they expect something back, but not expecting back as in like, oh, like lovingly, but expect like conniving. Is it conniving? Is that the right word? I don't know. Or cunningly, in just a way that is manipulative, a way that's manipulative, right? Which the intent here is not to get, maybe they intended to do good, So we're not going to not that they intended to do that. We don't know what they intended. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he didn't care about that, what they intended. He recognized that there was a sadaqah. He said it was a sadaqah, but he said a sadaqah that's followed up by what? By harm. He said a kindly word is better than that. For don't give your charity, don't give your bring over food, don't invite me to dinner, and then afterwards, you know, tell me, how much you do for me and how much I don't do for you. Okay, because what is that? That's harm, right? And so that is against somebody who doesn't understand fiqh, like these nuances, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And we're going to invite so and so, and then if you're going to mess up your charity or pollute it with harmful words, don't even do that. Don't even do your charity, right? This is the understanding from the Sharia. Don't even give your charity. Just say a kind word. Say, I would love to have you over for iftar, but it's not possible. I'm sorry. It would be, or say, say something, may Allah bless you that you're always having us for iftar, make a dua for them. That's it. If you can't, um, don't give them something and then be manipulative or give harm afterwards, right? So this is really important. I'm going to come back to this because there's a point I wanted to finish up. Okay. Um, I think I wanted to talk about the nuances of yes. So going back to uh, leading into something that going back to well-being. So I don't have a slide, but so fiqh and spirituality are very connected, right? Fiqh and spirituality, we have to understand that um, the fiqh is because we want to be spiritual. Fiqh is because we want to know to get to fiqh tells us the point of fiqh. There's no fiqh if the scholars say that uh, fiqh is the knowledge of what is for one and what is against one. That is, in a nutshell, that this is what fiqh is. It's not, the rule, all these rulings and stuff, but it is because why? Because it's the knowledge of what is one for one, what is going to benefit oneself, either in this dunya or in the akhirah, and what is going to be against that person, against yourself. That is what is the essence of fiqh. Right? And the essence of fiqh, another thing that the ulama said, and I remember this, I had mentioned this to one of the, when I visited one of my teachers, rahimahullah, he's considered I consider him one of my teachers. I learned a little bit from him. Sheikh Adib al-Galas, he's one of the actually senior shuyukh in Damascus when I was there. He passed away while I was there. Rahimahullah. I had visited him when he was a bit sick, and I asked him how he was, and he said he was in a very, subhanallah, poorly state, and he's like, I just wanna die. He said, "Bidi moot." He said, "I'm going to die." Not "bidi moot," not "I want to die." He said, "Bidi moot." In colloquially, it means, I'm just going to die soon. Like, but subhanAllah, he has a pile of books next to him still sitting. It was after he had a stroke. And so they canceled his public classes were canceled, but he was still, apparently he was still teaching. But mashallah, one of the things I remember I mentioned to him, I said, I think I asked him for dua, and he said, I'm nobody, I'm nothing. And I said, Imam Shafi'i, he says that he says, if the scholars are not the awliya of Allah, then Allah does not have awliya. Is if the scholars, if the ulama are not the awliya of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have ulama. This is what Imam Shafi'i said. And I mentioned that to him, and he started crying. And I just, I'm sharing that. It was a very sweet moment for me. Just that was one of the last times I saw him. I was blessed. I got ijazah from him. Even the way he said, when I asked him for ijazah, he said, one of the most humblest souls. He said, now we will get blessing natabarrak biki. Now we'll give you ijazah and get blessing from you. So it was like turning it around, turning it around. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rahimahullah. So, point being here, the fiqh. Fiqh, we don't study fiqh to know fiqh, to know the rulings. What is fiqh isn't the end all, right? It's not the end of it's not the goal. The goal is not to know fiqh. What is the goal? What is the goal when we study? When you study fiqh, what is your goal? But if you've taken fiqh class, and I hope you have, what's your goal to study fiqh? I just mentioned it, right? What's your goal? It's to know what you're supposed to do and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, and to avoid what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want. So you see, there is a strong, very strong uh, fiqh and spirituality are very strongly correct, connected, excuse me. Yes, to worship Allah and live as Allah wishes me to. Exactly. So it's so strongly connected because of this hadith, what our Prophet ﷺ told us, right? Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, then we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really, this is actually, I wanted to point out how amazing, really mind-blowing this hadith is. That when I love him, I become his hearing with which he hears, his seeing with which he sees, his hand with which he strikes, and leg with which he walks. And one of my shuyukh, Sheikh Samir al-Nasr, Hafidullah, he mentioned that if it was not the Prophet ﷺ who said this, we would have called it close to like kufr, because uh, there's so much kind of that oneness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this, isn't it? There's so much um uh it is, excuse me, it wasn't Sheikh Samir didn't say that for this hadith, it was actually for something else. But there's so much uh oneness or togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the way that is Allah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so this is a hadith Qudsi, right? Hadith. So the way that it's just described the oneness which the servant becomes with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's incredible. So now going back to ourselves as women, what something that happens a lot in Ramadan. I mentioned having your period. Also with children, this is something. So a friend, a student of mine, one time she sent me a message that she says after having kids, she feels resentful or jealous that her husband, he can continue his studies, he goes and studies like he used to. And she's like, right now she wishes, so she used to be a student prior to having kids, prior to getting married, and she's like, now that she has kids, she has to take care of the kids, she doesn't have time for that anymore. And of course that hit very close to home. I know exactly how that feels. But what I said to her, I was like, girlfriend, you gotta lift your head up high. Lift your head up high, because what what you are doing, like, let me go through like the details. Okay. When you are taking care of your little baby who needs a diaper change, what ruling does that become? What ruling is it that this baby now needs a diaper change and you are the baby's mother? What's the ruling of changing that baby's diaper? Come on. This is an easy one. Inshallah. It's an easy one. What ruling does it become? Or feeding the baby, when feeding the, maybe that's more clear. Wajib, right? It becomes wajib. You have to do it. It's obligatory, right? You have to, yes, you have to feed your kids, right? If your baby cannot get the food by herself, right? So it becomes wajib on you as a parent to do it, right? Your husband's out at work. Who's the person who's going to do it? You. That is your wajib. It becomes wajib. Now, what is the ruling of going to seek knowledge? Like her husband is going out to seek knowledge. What's the ruling for that? Depends. Depends. Again, seeking knowledge, it's fluid. There's some things, there's a lot of things actually in the Sharia that are fluid. So it's not always fardh. No, your fardh the knowledge. Seeking knowledge is it's fardh when it comes to basic fardh knowledge. Okay, basic your fara'id knowledge, that is fardh. To know how to pray, to know like your period fiqh, to know your fasting. That can be done. It's not. It doesn't take long, and hopefully everybody's done it. Now, to learn more than that, to learn a hadith and things like that, what does that become? It becomes sunnah. It's a strong sunnah. It could become, depending on your attention, depending on who you are, also is this your line of work, et cetera, et cetera. It could change. But in general, for people who are, seeking knowledge, it could be sunnah or mustahab, to depending. Um, so I said, he's doing something that, is good, it's benefiting him, but it's not a wajib, you know? And so basically, like to understand that, you can say, is that, I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy to spend time, literally as mothers, there are some caretakers, mothers, whatever, you could be in a time that all you're doing is fardh and wajib, that all your time is being spent by completely completing fardh and wajib acts as a mother. You have to wash up your kids, you have to feed them, you have to again, help them in the bathroom. You have to, these are things you have to do because nobody else can do it. This is part of the tarbiyah, which is a right of your child, right? So while your husband maybe, or that your other friend who you used to go to classes with, while they may still be going to classes and, benefiting themselves, you know what you're going to be like? You're going to be like, I have better things to do because literally you have more important things to do. You could be like, tell your husband. I said, tell your husband you have, you can be all busy in your sunnah act while I am busy in my fardh, right? And going back to this hadith, what is more important? What's going to get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quicker? To change your son's diaper or to go to this dars? It's definitely going to be to take care of your kids. It's getting your to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closer than any I'm not talking about fardh knowledge, but any other extra knowledge. Now, what happens? We all know this as mothers, right? We know this, but what still happens? Because I mean, I have 4 kids, so I've been there, done that too, in terms of wanting to. Now, this is where I'm taking it to another level. Okay. The 6 basic human needs. And also, we're talking about well-being here. Needs, without these needs, you are not okay. This is according to um, psychology or just according to, um, doctors or just research, right? And then these are 6 basic human needs. Uh, so we know basic human needs: physiological, food, water, shelter, sleep, exercise, things that make you physically well; psychological, alone time, mindfulness, listening to nasheeds, that's for me. Right? Psychology, the things that make you uh relational. So this is the things under inside are different. These like subtitles are different for everybody, but these are 4 basic like aspects of human being that need to be taken care of. So physical, psychological, relational, and spiritual. Okay, this is according to like all people, like Muslim and non-Muslim, they recognize that these are even spiritual. Yes, spiritual um, needs. A human being has a spirit, so they have to take care of the spirit. Even non-Muslims recognize that, right? So physiological, of course, those are basic physical needs. Psychological, what gets you okay in a positive, in a place where you are okay psychologically, where your emotional needs are okay, where you're okay emotionally. right? So that it becomes nuanced. Going to this does or not becomes nuanced. Okay. I'm going to come back to that. Relational needs that fulfill your requirements of connecting to other people. For example, time with kids, time with friends, time with key family members. Like it could be time, alone, a special time with your spouse, uh, uh, without other people. So relational needs that you have, these are things that we have to recognize by ourselves in terms of being mindful of the things that make us tick and the things that make us like click, meaning trigger us off, right? So that things that we don't need. So, and then lastly, of course, the spiritual needs, that what gets you to be okay with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, this is, in that is the fard, but there's also things that, there's some of this is, these are related in terms of psychological and spiritual, because it could be that there's something that you need to do that you'll be okay. You don't necessarily need to do it, and it's not necessarily fault, but you need to do it to be okay psychologically. Okay. And there's always, I hope that's clear. I'm going to go down here too and mention these. So these are the six, they call these the six human needs. So love and connection, variety, significance, feeling significance, variety meaning, not it being mundane and everything. So think about it like if you were doing the exact same thing every single day, not just 5 days a week, 7 days a week, for say you did that for like 3 weeks, you had work every single day, you're going to do every single day, do the same thing, never go out, never do anything. What's going to happen? That's you're going to feel that's not normal, right? It's not normal. Meaning you need from that take. That's why there is something called a weekend, because during that time you go out, you could go out with your family, go to a picnic, go to the park, something, right? So this is what that means. This is variety means like you're not doing the same routine. Yeah, people who are in prison or something, they get, American prison is different, but because they are able to like work out and do other things. But if you're somebody who's in like what do you have to be a solitary confinement or things like that, that is going to affect. Why does it have a psychological effect? Why? Because it's a human need. Variety is a human need by which survival, like, basic survival cannot happen. Okay. So significance, significance can come from, again, connection with other people, feeling needed. That's important. That's something important. Certainty also, stability, a level of stability, basic, human need. And growth and contribution here, they say these aren't needs for surviving, but these are needs for thriving and for feeling fulfilled. But growth and contribution are needs to feel fulfilled. So here, what's important now, how does it relate back to fiqh? Because these needs, these are interrelated with our intellect, with the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the Sharia seeks to protect, right? Our deen, our life, our intellect, right? Our intellect, our well-being, these are interrelated. So when you say, when the Sharia, because the Sharia seeks to protect this, these things also become important. All these things, they're like indications of what we need. They're not indication of categories of what we need. Excuse me, categories of things that we need. Need. What does it mean to need something? What is your need? So I say, you as a person, we have things that are fault for us. There are things that are fault for us because they complete our needs. And everybody is different in that sense, right? But there's things that, without this, I'm not going to be okay. Without, I said here, sometime listening, somebody, for some people, it's alone time or just to have that break. Without that break, you're not going to be okay. Without that um, self-care time. Self-care, now we're calling it self-care, but really it's an amana. We'll call it, you can call it the amana of taking care of your body, right? The amana of taking care of your body. Without that, without sleep, you're not going to be okay, right? Or without some people for without, yes, you're doing your fard, but for me, just doing my fard is not okay for me just to do my fard. Okay. I need to do my sunnah because that's something that I've always done. And yes, my child needs attention and it's fard for me to take care of my child. But you know what? I want to do my sunnah prayers too, right? I'm going to do my sunnah prayers. And there's nothing, it's not, uh, I'm not, if I pray my sunnahs, I'm not taking away from taking care of my kids, right? So now we got into sunnah prayers. Now I want to talk to you also about going back to this dars, right? This dars that is not wajib, but it's an extra dars. Now, where does it fall? In the beginning, I said, of course, generally, when women, you can't go to durus regularly, etc., because, and we understand that that is a lower standard than what we're already doing, right? Usually, you can't commit to a dars. However, what happens if I am feeling spiritually deprived or feeling spiritually depleted or psychologically depleted? Okay. What if my what if I'm feeling psychologically or spiritually depleted? What happens to that need of going to, and something that, for me personally, that makes it, I'm okay with, is that I need to just even read, or go to a class. Maybe for someone, you could go to class or read Quran, or read something for even 20 minutes or half an hour, or like a page a day. Like that's something, say that for this person, that is something that they need to be okay. Libya is saying, I won't be able to do my fard properly. Not necessarily that you won't be able to do your fard properly, because a lot of women do this. A lot of women do this. You're not women. What happens? That, there's something, and a lot of women, we don't even recognize that we don't call it our need. Okay, first of all, because we're not used to calling that our need, even though without it, we're not okay. Without it, we're not okay, but we don't want to give ourselves that much importance, is what I'm trying to say. We don't give ourselves that much, like, we say, oh, my husband needs this, my son needs this, my daughter needs this, I need to do this, but we never think about what we need. And there are things that we may need. For example, if I don't pray my sunnah because I have to take care of something else, I'm going to be upset. Right? I'm going to be upset if I don't get to read Quran each day, even if it's just a page. If looking at Quran each day, I'm going to be upset. That's going to make me not okay. Of course, if it's something like, whoa, we had to go to the hospital, it's something that's really busy. But if it's just like household stuff, now if and it's not, and I'm saying, read Quran every day, meaning, um, in a time where I'm able to. I'm not like, my babies are screaming with, dirty diapers, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to read Quran every day because that makes me feel better. No, dua as well. Having the time to make dua. I know a lot of mothers, we don't even have time. We pray and we get up, right? So sometimes that's that connection. All you need is a few minutes. But what does it change? That dua, technically, without any other factors. So Adia here is hinting to it. With the ruling change for specific individuals at different times. This is exactly what I'm trying to say. right? So what is the ruling of dua without looking at anything else? What is the ruling of dua? You guys know this or should know this. What's the ruling of dua? To say astaghfirullah at the end or make a dua, any dua for yourself. Sunnah. Yeah, it's sunnah to make dua, right? Now, is it? What is the ruling of a dua? Now, for a woman, now let's say, for example, I'll be the example, okay? Say I've been getting up, I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and, do my azkar or do my dhikr that I usually do, just going running around, serving family, etc. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm like, it's really getting me annoyed. Now, another prayer, Maghrib is here, and I still didn't get a chance to do it. What is the ruling now that and I feel like not okay to not do that? It's really getting me to a point where I'm resentful. And that resentment is what happens and when you're resentful. Your well-being is compromised, right? And now when there is something that you want to do, your heart wants to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't ignore that. This is what I want to tell you as women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not, it's not just, oh, it's just something you want to do and, I don't care. It's not even farad, it's not wajib, it's not, nothing. It's not important. This is the wording we have to change. First for ourselves, because we recognize it for other people. It's something that's important to your child, or we give it, we respect that, right? As your children grow older, of course, when they're teenagers, etc., we respect that as something that's important. What if something that's important to you? We have to recognize there's things that make us okay, that make us um not be compromised psychologically, not get emotional stress and distress, and just things that keep us away from stress, anxiety, depression, resentment. These things are become close to wajib. These things become wajib. Okay, they do change their that now, like for example, making dua changes, the ruling is going to change for me from being a sunnah to maybe becoming a wajib, like because if I didn't do that, something worse is going to happen. What would I this is something that my coach Sarah Malik taught me. She said uh if this was like my thing I have to remind myself consistently. He says when self-care doesn't happen, when self-care doesn't happen, haram things happen. Because what happens when so let me give you an example. You're a woman who maybe has young kids, and she's up all night, and you're like, you know what, I have to, you're like, you feel obliged, like, oh, this person called me for iftar and I have to do iftar for them. And you make iftar, you're so tired, you're exhausted, and then at night, you have to clean up, and say you're even pregnant. You can add that in there if you want to. But you're exhausted, and then you want to pray your tarawih, but you can't. But it leads, so now you're like, um you feel resentment for calling them over because you felt like you had to do it, right? You feel resentment. And also that these things are not healthy. What you want to do is avoid the negative and not think about, oh, I want to get reward. You want to get reward, but with that, you have to recognize if you want to invite someone, but it's going to lead to a lot of negativity, what's better, according to what our Prophet ﷺ taught us? What's better is just to not have, not, don't, don't do, don't bring the positive that's going to cause a lot of negativity to come along with it. Okay. So if you're, what he said about when what I've prohibited you from, avoid it as much as possible. If that invite, you've invited someone, if that invite is going to lead you to start screaming at your kids, start cursing out your kids, oh, help me, you guys are good for nothing, start getting angry, losing control, that, that is other, that's harm to your family because of something good that you did, right? Because you didn't know where your limit was. You didn't know your limits, right? So um, to know to not do something that is going to give you a reward because you're avoiding something that is going to be haram. That is more better than to do that. Let's see, what is it? I know sister felt resentment towards her in-laws who came to visit when she had a baby and she wouldn't be able to rest properly because of expectations and housework. Which yeah, that is something that that's very common. I was going to say, I was like, it came to my mind, let me throw in in-laws as well, but I was like, oh, it's gonna get too messy. Because why? Oh, let's throw in that your husband asked you to invite his brother or the in-laws over for dinner. Now that's something else, right? That's another level. Um, uh, that gets tricky, right? But so now it gets tricky where? Where does it get tricky? Because now you have like, oh, husband, what's the level of obeying husband? And what's the level of what's your own ability, right? And now if he really wants it, you know what? At the end of the day, if he wants that, you're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to do it unless I get help with this, this, and this. Because we don't have slaves anymore, women, right? We don't have slaves anymore. You're the one who cooks. You're the one who takes care of the kids. You enable your husband basically to go out and work and to get that money, right? You help him with that. There's nobody else holding down the fort, right? So if he expects extra things, then he is going to have to give extra things as well. So it's really important to when what happens is with consistent resentment, it's going to lead to it's a feeling that is unwell. It's you're not in a state of afia, you're not in a state of well-being when you have resentment. Because what happens if your resentment keeps going, it's going to turn into not just whoever the resentment is against, it's going to turn into disconnect. And also it can end up breaking relations. It can lead to stress and anxiety and depression. All right. So these kind of things, watch out, know, feel yourself, what's happening lately. And I will say it's much easier for me as I have older kids. Um, but with my younger daughter, I can feel when I feel like just that I'm going to start screaming at her, I'm getting really frustrated. I tell her, I'm getting really frustrated right now because you're not listening to me. And also just taking deep breaths, just knowing yourself at the moment and taking deep breaths. That becomes even that taking deep breath. What does it become? It becomes pretty much like a wajib, right? Why? Because I'm trying to avoid a blow up. I'm trying to avoid something that can be close to haram, mistreating her, something that's, she's being a kid, so she doesn't deserve like such harsh treatment because she is a kid. But now I'm getting upset. Now, when have you guys noticed um uh that okay, Libya actually you responded or answered my question before I even asked it. Because what I was going to ask was, do you notice when is it that you blow up? When is it that you lose your cool? When is it that you get angry? When is it? Is that when your reservoirs, your preserves, like your stores of like taking care of yourself, you're tired, you're cranky, you're hungry, you haven't done what you wanted to do, you haven't done things that are fulfilling for you, okay, for a long period of time. So, and things that are fulfilling for you from this list, um, right? Things that make you feel, connected. to your loved ones, things that are make you feel different. If your husband never takes you out anywhere, he's like, oh, I don't have to. It's not a fadl. You'll be like, you know what? Actually, it is. Actually, it is. It's something I need. You know, I think I didn't complete that thought is that when you need something to be okay, like to go out, to not be cooped up in the house all day, that becomes a need for your well-being. It becomes like a wajib. So yes, if he said, oh, it's Sharia, Sharia doesn't make your need. Actually, I tell you what my need is. The Sharia every recognizes that everybody has different needs and everybody has different thresholds, right? There's some things that I can bear that somebody else can't bear. Some things that I can't bear, somebody else can't. Somebody has like things that are like haram for me or makruh for me, right? Like a lot of women, I'm going to throw it out there. A lot of women, for some women, for their husband to get a second wife is too much for them to bear. For other women, maybe it's come, it's okay. So there are things that, in terms of what you can take, the Sharia recognizes that, right? So you see how your fiqh can be different. Your fiqh can change. It nuances the actual like textbook fiqh. Okay. And that's why it's important. They say, to read fiqh, yes, I need to stop, but I mean, I can go on for this because that's just my expertise is in fiqh and in learning about self-care and taking care of yourself as well. And also, so to for all these things to come together, that makes you your spirituality as well. That makes you a woman that is thriving, not just in Ramadan, but outside Ramadan as well, right? So in Ramadan, when we're talking about things like, of course, invites and things like that. But, also like the itikaf, thinking about doing itikaf. Let me just finish that point about needing to go out. So if you need something different, like your husband said, well, oh, that's not your fault, or I'm not obliged to do that. You know what? I'm not that it becomes an obligation because what it's important to you. It may not be important, like it's important to me. Something that is important to me, it's something that is necessary for me to be well. So you may not need to go out to the park or you may not need to go out for a walk, but it's important to me. It's a need for me. It's a need for my well-being, right? And that's what's really important. So understand your needs, something that makes it important for you. Don't downplay don't downplay that. That is that's going to change like, oh, I'm going to take my wife for a walk. It's mustahab, whereas I could spend time teaching in the masjid or reading a book. You know what? You got your priorities whack, brother. You have to teach them this. If you don't know it, first, ladies, know it for yourselves, then go back and teach your husbands how to treat you. Go back and treat your families, teach your families. Say, no, it's not better for you to be spending time here. It's better for you to be taking care of me because this is a need I have. And for you to fulfill my need is more rewarding than to read your book, okay, or go to the dars or listen to whatever it is, you know? So, so I'm going to actually stop here. Inshallah, I hope to actually, I do want to continue this concept, this idea of because I think it's really important the nuances for us to understand the nuances in our lives and the nuances how well-being it's interrelated with fiqh and it can how it can change the fiqh, the textbook fiqh, how it changes it. It's really important for us to know as nurturers of the home, for us to even guide our children. What's important for you to do right now? What's important to do for you to do? And that's why they say the Sufi, and go back to spirituality, the Sufi, the true Sufi is Ibn al-Waqt, is the son or daughter of her time, meaning they know exactly what the best thing to do is at that time. And you know what? You're not going to know it if you don't know your fiqh. You're not going to know it if you don't know these. You don't have to know, you don't have to go off and study, for 10 years or even for five. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed to do that. But even for a year, you just need to understand that there are nuances, just like this class here, and know your basic fiqh, inshallah. I'm going to stop here, but I will say that inshallah, if those of you who've had issues um with with prioritizing yourself, your needs, my course that inshallah I hope to restart after Ramadan, the revival course, it was a 3 month course, but now it's going to be a 6 month course, which actually I go into details, and it is for, I want to say first, it is for actually teachers. If you are a teacher in the community, you need to know how to take care of women. And you need to know that how important women are in the deen. Secondly, is for women, if you're struggling with, especially if you are perhaps married to somebody who cares about their fiqh, but their fiqh does not guide them to taking care of you. The revival course is all about showing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of women, how our deen takes care of women, how our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took care of us. And it is, if you ever felt like the deen was against you at all, if you've ever felt, and I'm going to use this word, betrayed, because I know that women, as women, we could have felt that way because of the way certain things were presented, certain ayat, certain hadith. If you've ever felt betrayed by the deen or left in the lurch, or felt like the deen doesn't have your back, this it's the course that you would want to take, because it's not something that I've seen something like it, because it not only combines like knowledge of fiqh, which alhamdulillah I'm authorized to teach fiqh from Sheikh Samir Nas, which is a big deal for me, and other shuyukh, but also the knowledge of a hadith and seerah, that I combine that, and it really makes for such a different understanding that inshallah you'll feel so connected to the deen that it's just so empowering to feel that way, to recognize how much this deen really has our back. And I feel like, even though we say it as women, we don't really know it. So inshallah, look out for that course. I would recommend that for anybody who's struggling with that. Inshallah, we'll stop here and say جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. I actually didn't ask if there was any questions. If you have any questions, I'll take questions if you have. Now, inshallah, we'll stop here. Okay, inshallah. I don't think there's any questions. So take care. Remember me in your du'as. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.